Not going to get that championship back by shaking hands, being best friends with the champion. No, I slapped him right in his stupid face. I slid out of the ring, and I let him know my intentions from that point.
He calls me down to ringside, and we're starting to chat. He's just saying how I'm doing, all that. And then at the very end, he's like, "Hey, you got a match?" I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna have a match." I was like, "That's not normal. Like, why?" And he's like, "You'll be fine. You're gonna do good. You're gonna wrestle Aleister Black. It's gonna be great." I was like, "All right, cool, yeah."
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, for frequency's sake tag team champions of the world, the Wizard CZ, and never wrong, Nick Gold. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. You are listening to the Card Subject to Change podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, the Wizard CZ, and I know I can speak for the Wiz when I say this. We are welcoming in one of our favorite guests that we have. We had him last year for our independent shows for WrestleMania Week preview. That's right. We're 6 days actually away from WrestleMania. Yesterday would have been a week from yesterday is WrestleMania Night 1, but we're a week away from WrestleMania. But there's so much more that happens besides the show of the year in WrestleMania. The rest of the wrestling world and the indie world converges on Philadelphia and has their run of shows. And to take us through those run of shows is our colleague, friend, and recurring guest on the show, the voice of SCW Pro Wrestling, the play-by-play voice, of SCW Pro Wrestling, Tim Regal. Tim, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back with you guys. I'm excited. It's Mania week. Pumped up. Obviously, Mania this year, huge. And it's going to be a big week for indies. Obviously, we're heading to Philadelphia this year, so always hotbed of independent wrestling. That's so many wrestling schools and promotions centered literally within about 30 to 45 miles of Philadelphia. So good or bad in some cases, as some might say. There's been a lot of discourse online that there might be too many shows. And like I said, I weeded out everything that wasn't live streaming or something to that effect. And we still ended up with 28 shows on the list. Like that's how much there's like, so I think I counted up something like over 50 shows, over 100 events, whether it's podcast or concerts or parties like Wale Mania, stuff like that. So if you're one of the lucky people like our boy Mike down at Lopez who's going to Philadelphia this weekend, there is so much to see and do. So I've always said this because this has been a phenomenon for a few years. Some of these shows, who goes to all of these shows? Because I don't know how there's that many people to go to all of these shows. You can't go to all these shows. They're literally running one on top of the other. But we're going to focus on, obviously, like I said, the bigger shows and the stuff that you can live stream. There is still quite a bit of it. So let's get into it.
What is the one show, Regal, that you have circled on your map, obviously, besides WrestleMania? What's the one show that you're going to go out of your way, you're going to watch, nothing's going to interrupt it, the number one show that you want to watch on this slew of shows that's happening WrestleMania weekend? So
I'm going to caveat that just a little bit, because obviously the first answer will be Super Card of Honor. But I'm going to take Super Card of Honor out of that list because I think everybody knows it's ROH, it's Tony Khan, it's the satellite of AEW. I think everybody knows that's probably going to end up being the biggest show of the weekend. Obviously, you have your Joey Janela spring breaks. You have your For the Culture, your collective stuff. You've got a lot of stuff for IWTV. I'm going to shout out, and we'll get into it as we get into it, but the show, and we'll get into it as we go down the list, there is a show on IWTV, Action Wrestling presents Dean. It is a tribute show to Dean Rasmussen, who recently passed away. Dean was one of the founders and one of the leaders of the Death Valley Driver message board back in the day. before we had Twitter and everything else. We had message boards. And this show is a tribute to him with a lot of really good wrestlers, a lot of unique matches, and a lot of people that aren't booked 20 times over the course of Mania Weekend. So that show, the Action Wrestling Dean show, is the show that might be a little bit down ballot that I am really looking forward to.
All right. Let me ask you, before we actually get into the shows, let me ask you this. There's always someone, or multiple someones, who come out of WrestleMania weekend looking like $1 million, looking like they're going to get signed anytime after WrestleMania weekend on the independent scene. Who are you watching? Who do you have your eye on this weekend?
So, and this goes into a thing of me and our good friend Alex McCarthy were having a conversation.
Sure.
The AEW gutted a lot of the top indie talent. So, looking at a lot of these shows, like the previous years where you had your guys like your Speedball Mike Bailey, or go back even 5 or 6 years ago when Will Ospreay was still coming up and he came over. We're gonna get that breakout talent, but I'm not quite sure who it is yet. It could be one of the Japanese talents that's coming over. It could be one of the Joshi talents that's coming over. It could be one of the luchadors. It could be somebody that maybe we're not hearing about. Maybe they're just gonna maybe they're gonna be a guy that fills in. Obviously you have your stalwarts, you have your Speedballs, you have your Joey Janela's, you've got, obviously I'm a bias, but I always say I know Manders is always going to be there to show up and show out. So,
hell yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll see. I'm looking. That is one thing that's going to be really interesting this year, and I'm going to look into finding, who's the diamond in the rough that we're going to find this year. Hopefully, we do maybe find some new talent this year, because I feel like the talent pool is a little thin.
I got to tell you, there's a name that's on the tip of my tongue that really impressed me back at the Jersey J Cup. And I was looking through the match lists of all the shows earlier. I only saw his name one time, and I was a little disappointed in that, because this kid has some talent. Maybe he won't break out this year, but definitely someone to watch out for in the next couple of years, and that's Alec Price.
Alec Price, a good talent. Another name that popped into my head, because I know he's on a lot of shows this year. And a name that's out there, some people know about him. Obviously, he's familiar locally because he's in Dreamwave as a tag champ. But Marcus Mathers,
yep,
I think has a lot of big matches and a lot of opportunity to show up and show out.
I saw his name quite a few times on the list of matches. Let's get into it, Tim. You're leading the way here. This show is made based around you and what your knowledge of indie wrestling. Where do you want to start? Where are we? What's the first show on your list that you think is going to be worth?
So this year, due to being in Philadelphia, we're actually starting the week tomorrow. Probably today, by the time some of you see this. My good friends over at H2 Wrestling are going to be doing shows all weekend long. So they are starting off the week with one of their Monday Night Death shows on IWTV. A lot of talent, the indie talent that's familiar. Zeta Steel, Marcus Mathers, Tank versus Louis Ramos. Jaden Newman is on the show. I know Manders wrestles there. I don't see his name listed on a lot of shows, but Colby Carino is going to be on these shows. Then they're doing their Hustle Cup, which is their students competing in a tournament. But yeah, if you're a guy that I really like on H2, Ryan is a guy named Ryan Redfield. Big hoss, has had some teamed up and had some killer matches with Manders. Marcus Mathers is going to be on all these shows like we talked about. Matt Makowski, who's another name I'm really high on. Those shows are actually going to be Monday and Tuesday before we kick into the Wednesday shows where things really get going.
For those not familiar with H2O Wrestling, what should a fan expect tuning into these shows on Monday and Tuesday to kick off WrestleMania week?
H2 Wrestling is ran by the bulldozer Matt Tremont. It's primarily his students and some outside talent. They run their own school. They have their own arena. You get a mix of solid wrestling, and there will be some death matches if that might be for you or not for you, just to give you the heads up on that. But always some pretty good quality, some pretty decent quality on those H2 shows that I've watched.
And some good looking talent. You mentioned some great names. Just looking at the list, stand out for me. I know who Colby Carino is. Obviously, like you said, Marcus Mathers. Those look to kick off the week hot. Let me ask you this though, Tim. A lot of people are going to be focused on the main draw, and that's WWE. What's give us a really specific reason why someone should tune in here for H2 Wrestling as opposed to Monday Night Raw?
Well, the indie talent in general, I always tell people if you're maybe new to indies or you're primarily a WWE fan, the indies are where you're going to find the next guy. Whether it's, I'm trying to think of like Ricky Starks. I'll use him as an example. A guy who 5-6 years ago was wrestling on a lot of these WrestleMania weekend shows, or a guy like Carmelo Hayes in NXT. A lot of these guys, especially a lot of the NXT guys, a lot of the up and comers in AEW, like Top Flight, they came from the indie scene. So, obviously it's Monday, you're going to be watching Monday Night Raw, but if you're an indie fan, if you want to check out something new, hey, what's out there for you? And then, like I said, we get into Tuesday, and then we get into Wednesday, which then we start getting into multiple shows going on during the day.
Man, you said it best, though. This is the future of wrestling coming up on the independents. That's why we do this show, where we have a big focus on independent wrestling, especially during WrestleMania weekend, because these are the guys who are going to be leading the charge in a few years. You're going to see people who are getting up in the years as far as the wrestling business goes, who are going to be retiring, and they're going to need replacements. This is where they're going to find them. This is your up and coming talent, so to speak.
Absolutely. So moving on, I guess we'll get into Wednesday. Wednesdays when things really start getting. It used to traditionally be Thursday. Now we're kind of moving into the Wednesday because you get into Wednesday evening. A lot of people are getting into town. They don't got anything to do. Hey, throw a show up here. So actually kicking off 4 p.m. Central Time, Labor of Love and Sean Henderson presents Wrestle John from the Attic Brewing Company. This is going to be on IWTV. You have Cheeseburger versus Weber Hatfield, two former Chikara guys. Here's a match that I think jumps off the page to me. Speedball Mike Bailey taking on Paul London on that show. That's a match. Chills. That's one of those matches right there that you're only going to get in like a Mania weekend. Paul London doesn't take a lot of booking. So Bobby Orlando going to be on the show. We know we've seen him on Dreamwave. A match I like, The Colony, Electro Ant, Worker Ant, and Ultimo Ant versus the Cyberhawks. That is an old standby from the old Chikara promotion coming back. Okay. If I were to read off all the scramble matches that we get, there's a scramble on the show. I'm just going to say, guys, if we were to go down every card, we could play a drinking game where you take a drink every time there's a scramble match, and we'd probably be on the floor by the time that the list was done. Because
I'll leave the drinking up to you, Regal.
Yeah.
Fun fact: I'm actually 3 weeks alcohol free. So
all right, good for you, man.
I'm taking a little break. That's the joke. Take a drink every time there's a scramble match on one of these shows because you're going to get scrambles all over the place. After that show, say at the H2, going back to the H2 Wrestling Center, there is Intergender Bonanza. A lot of intergender matches, but not all. Main event of this one, Marcus Mathers versus Effie should be a good one. Austin Luke.
Marcus Mathers named again, and it's only Tuesday.
That kid's gonna be all over, and yeah, so you're gonna see a lot of him. Austin Luke versus Janai Kai is one that I like. Sonny Kiss, former AEW talent, taking on the current Dreamwave champion Zeta Steele. Or no,
Okay.
Brittany Brooks is the champion.
Brittany
now.
Brooks is the current one. Yep.
Zeta Steel, Dreamwave talent. So,
Yes.
Sexy Eddie from old school CZW Canada IWS going to be on that show. So a fun show to look at there. So that's Wednesday, and now I guess we'll get into Thursday, because here's where you really start to amp up, because
Yes.
with WrestleMania being 2 nights now, a lot of your big shows happen on the Thursdays and Fridays. You know, when Thursday used to kind of be the we're getting started day. Well, now you jump right into Thursday. Kicking it off 10 a.m. Central Time. Defy Wrestling, Can't Deny It, from the Auditorium at Penn's Landing. This is the first show of the Collective, ran by Game Changer Wrestling. The Collective is where you're going to see a lot of shows. All the Collective shows going to be on Triller. I think it's now Triller Plus.
Yes.
The former Fight TV. Yep. Yeah. It's now Triller. Yep.
Yeah, Triller TV, the former Fight. Like I said, I think it's $8 a month for the pass for all this. You used to have to pay for the Collective like $120 for just the Collective. Now you get all these shows on Triller that are going to be on Fight TV for about $8. By the way, 1 month IWTV still only $10. So a lot out there that you can get for maybe $15-$20, about the cost of what you'd spend on a trip to McDonald's.
And you're talking about that Defy show. I'm looking right at the first match listed on the website that you sent to us earlier. Kenta versus Gringo Loco. Holy crap.
Sign me up.
Gringo Loco, obviously a stalwart of the indies. Everybody knows the base god. Been all over Game Changer Wrestling. Dreamwave, been to AAA in Mexico. Basically built the alternative title division in the relaunch of Dreamwave.
Yep.
Talent in AAW for years. A Midwest stalwart that's now gone international. He's taking on Kenta. Kenta is a guy that, his best years are behind him, but let's hope he brings his working boots. Let's hope he, shows up to get a good match here. So we'll see. That match does sound good, but it's going to depend on what Kenta is willing to do there. So, but I hope that he does. After that, we got a trios 3-way: Sovereign, Everett Rivers, Judas Icarus, and Travis Williams. These guys are Defy. Defy is actually a company that runs in the Seattle area. Okay. So they're going to be bringing a lot of their local talent down for this show. And they are taking on Team Dragon Gate of Shun Skywalker, Ben K, and Ho Ho Loon. And then another local team that has Casey Navarro, Guillermo Rojas, and Cody Shikun. Great talent in that match. Obviously, we're going to get into it. You're going to see a lot of these Dragon Gate guys as well. They are all over the place. Because you got a whole bunch of Dragon Gate guys coming over. I am a huge fan of Shun Skywalker, so anytime he's on it, I'm definitely looking forward to that. CCK, Chris Brooks and Kid Lycos, a team from Progress. They've wrestled in DDT. They've wrestled all over. They're going to be taking on the Moonlight Express, which is Mao from DDT teaming up with Speedball Mike Bailey. That is another banger match. Defy Women's match title. Burt Vixen versus Trish Adora was supposed to have Sawyer Wreck in the match, but unfortunately Sawyer Wreck broke her wrist. She is completely out for Mania weekend.
That's a bummer.
No.
That's a total bummer for an indie wrestler, especially for Sawyer Wreck, who is starting to, get out there and be more prominent on the indie scene. That is on the Defy Wrestling Can't Deny It show. That'll be on Fight TV, and you said Thursday at 10 a.m.?
It is Thursday at 10 a.m. It's the first show of the Collective. That is gonna be a quality show. I'm a big supporter of what Defy does. Their promoter is an old school message board guy who knows what he's doing, knows how to book a good show. So, also after that, going 1 hour later on IWTV, if you're into that, we got Labor of Love and Sean Henderson presents Euphoria. Daniel Makabe, the wrestling genius, taking on Edith Surreal, the Ugly Ducklings. Colby Carino teaming back up with his former partners White Mike and Rob Killjoy, taking on the team of Gabriel Sky, Jimmy Lloyd, and the Chad. That is a randomly put together team. You have Gabriel Sky, who's a high flyer, Jimmy Lloyd, who we all know and love, and then the Chad, who is former deathmatch guy. So, Colin Delaney versus Sean Henderson. Always good to see Colin Delaney. If you only know Colin Delaney from WWE ECW, he's been doing the indie thing for over a decade now, and just great technical wrestler. Joel Bateman versus Tim Donst versus Connor Claxton. Tim Donst, one of my old favorites from Chikara, doesn't do a lot of booking, so good to see him on that show. Then a whole lot of East Coast guys, a lot of former Chikara guys on that show, if that's something you are into. Another big show, I guess I'll just run down the list here. The next big one would be 2:00 our time from the 2300 Arena, Stardom American Dream 2024. This is the Stardom Women's Joshi promotion from Japan. If anybody's been following the news, there's a lot of news coming out of Stardom. The former promoter, the man,
upheaval and turmoil. There's a
lot of upheaval and turmoil there, but they are bringing a show over in the 2300. This is going to be available on Fight. This is not part of the collective. It's $25 just for this show. If you're a big Joshi fan, if you're a big Stardom fan, you can order this show. But no card, but basically a lot of the bigger name talent from Stardom. Maya Iwatani, who's been on Ring of Honor, Azumi, Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, Suri, Mina Shirakawa, just to name a few. You're going to see a lot of these. I know there's a Stardom 6-woman match on a Super Card of Honor that looks fantastic, and they're on some of the other shows too. But if you're a really big Stardom fan, you might want to check that one out. Let's see, where are we going next? Okay. Next show, here we go. One of my favorites of the weekend, as always, 3 p.m. Central Time. Game Changer Wrestling, Josh Barnett's Blood Sport 10. If you guys,
last year was my first Bloodsport show, the full show.
Mine
and
too.
Let me tell you, I absolutely loved it. I was so impressed with the talent that was actually going in there and going in there and putting on a fight. Props to Johnny Bloodsport, Johnny Nitro, whatever you want to call him. He actually
promotion.
He had a good match last year. So yes, this is when I will start to jump on the WrestleMania pre-show right here. As this indie show here, I will not miss Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. I know it's early in the afternoon, but thankfully my job's flexible and I'll be able to sit right in here and watch that show. I love that show.
I'm the guy who in. I'm on vacation starting Wednesday, so
I want to zero in on one match that stands out on Bloodsport because it's not very often, extremely rare that you see a WWE wrestler on an independent show while they're still under contract with WWE. Shayna Baszler versus Masha Slamovich on that Bloodsport show. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be very interesting and nice to see WWE branching out and letting their stars do things elsewhere. Doesn't happen very often, but that's going to be one to watch right there.
I mean, this whole card is loaded, but yeah, it blew up the internet when Shayna Baszler was announced for this show because everybody's like, what is going on? Well, there was obviously some give and take between Game Changer Wrestling. It sounds like it was a Josh Barnett putting together a deal with Triple H kind of situation because these are sponsored and ran and booked by Josh Barnett, who obviously former New Japan Pro Wrestler, former UFC heavyweight champion. We should probably run it down. For those who don't know, the concept of Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, the ring has no ropes. The ropes are taken off. It is just the mat, and it is submission or knockout finish only. There are no pinfalls. There are, you either tap out or get knocked out. And we've seen some pretty insane knockouts. We've seen a lot of pretty insane tap outs as well. Kind of a throwback to the old Japanese UWFI rings, pancrase kind of shoot promotions. Yep. But you mentioned obviously CZ, the Shayna Baszler versus Masha Slamovich match. Masha Slamovich I think, the best non-WWE female talent in the world today. And then you have a lot of just top name talent on the show. You have one of the biggest things, a one-night women's blood sport tournament featuring Janai Kai, the Kick Demon, Lady Frost, Marina Shafir, who obviously we all know is a former UFC fighter, and then Lindsay Snow, who's won a ton of blood sport fights. So that women's tournament and that Shayna Baszler Masha Slamovich match, which I got to think that's going to be the main event. That is absolutely loaded. You have
Nick Nemeth on the show. I believe Speedball Mike Bailey is on that show. I can't recall the matchup off the top of my head.
Those two are facing each other.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
It is
Very interesting match. Nick Nemeth with that amateur wrestling background. We'll see how much that can help him here. Speedball Mike Bailey, whenever he's in a ring, is magic, and this will be none different. You just won't be any ropes in this ring. So that's another match on the card.
A couple of names that stand out to me. You were just about to say one of them, Tim. Minoru Suzuki,
yes.
Timothy Thatcher, a couple of heavy hitters. They're not facing each other, but on the card, those are going to be some brutal matches because those two do not pull punches.
Minoru Suzuki versus Royce Isaacs. Royce Isaacs, a guy who's been on the NWA, is a Southern SoCal guy. He's done some New Japan Strong. Always excels in this format. He is a blood sport regular, and him and Minoru Suzuki are just going to throw down. It's going to be insane. Fuminori Ayabi versus Takeo Nomori. Those are two, I want to say, Noah wrestlers who had a match over in Japan that a lot of people are calling the match of the year. They're going to be having a rematch under Bloodsport rules here. Matt Makowski, who's a former MMA fighter, taking on Akira. And then Josh Barnett, the man himself, taking on, as you said, Johnny Bloodsport, the former Johnny Mundo. Last year was the first time Johnny was in Bloodsport, and a lot of people were like, what's he going to do? And he absolutely crushed it. So these are always a fun card. They're very unique because of the format. So that is definitely a show you should pencil in.
And don't shy away from the name Bloodsport. I heard that, and my first thought, it's got to be deathmatch garbage. I say garbage. No offense to anyone who likes death matches. It's not my cup of tea. I'm just throwing that out there. But I watched it for the first time last year. It is an amazing show. Can't say enough good things about the whole Bloodsport concept. Tim, Nick, I think we're going to pause for just a minute. We're at about the half-hour mark. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to take a moment to focus, but we'll be right back.
Football season may be over, but for frequency's sake, still has you covered for all your sporting needs. Tune in every Sunday when the best professional wrestling podcast around, Cards Subject to Change, gets you caught up on everything inside the ropes. They won't miss a count with weekly analysis and interviews. More into auto racing? We've got a double dose for you on the track. Tune in to Fast Money with Rod Villagomez each week and win some money with the quickest bets in all of sports. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your basketball fix? Points in the Paint has you covered with live shows every other week looking at everything in the association. Backed by popular demand, we have the return of The Payoff Pitch, FFSQC's baseball show, covering you on news around the MLB. If you're missing football, don't fret. Mark and Dan still have you covered in the football lounge. Missing Joe Winkle? Probably not, but he's still here talking sports on Educated Ignorance. Football season might be over, but we've still got you covered. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
For Frequency's Sake is brought to you by Durham Remodeling, serving the Quad City area's remodeling and repair needs since 1973. Clint's Draft House, grab a bite and a pint. 7th Street Moline. Low Pies, New York-style pizza served up by the slice or pie, Davenport. Lifted Energy, energy drinks, coffee, donuts, and more. #GetLifted. Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles. Sports cards and memorabilia, vintage clothing, hats, pennants, and more. Ryan Allison Tattoo. Step into the vibrant world of tattoos with Ryan Allison. And A Cut Above, offering quality custom woodwork designed specifically around our customers.
Welcome back to the show. Glad to have you
Welcome
here.
back to the show.
Glad to have you here on the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan, for the fan, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. Of course, we are here with our good friend Tim Regal, breaking down everything independent Wrestlemania weekend. Before we jump back into Thursday, we hadn't even finished Thursday's activities yet. We've just been talking about Bloodsport. We're going to take a little bit of time here to focus, to readjust with our friend JT Energy. JT, take it away.
Here we are. What time is it? You know what time it is. It's time for a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy. And this week, there's a lot we could focus on. It's Easter Sunday. We have WrestleMania looming. But the one thing you can't do is get distracted. To focus, you have to look forward. Put all your effort into that one thing. And today, you are being smart. You are focusing on a WrestleMania weekend preview. Unfortunately, it's with Timothy Regal. But that's beside the point, because I'm not going to focus on him. I'm going to focus on you. So this week, focus on singular aspects. Give them your all. And by doing that, you won't be pulled in so many different directions. Because sometimes when you give everyone a little bit, you can't give one thing everything it deserves. So this week, be smart. Every day, from Sunday to Saturday, find those things that deserve your full focus. This has been a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy.
You know, I always learn something new from those segments. I always get my mind readjusted, recentered. I did not know there was beef between one JT Energy and Tim Regal. I guess that's something you learned from the show.
Me and Mr. Energy's issues go way, way, way back.
Now, we won't talk to you in that tone. We are so happy you're here. We're talking with Tim Regal here. He is talking all things independent wrestling weekend, of course, from the Philadelphia area. We left off with Josh Bartnett's Bloodsport on Thursday. Where do we want to pick back up on Thursday? There's some more notable shows to talk about here, Tim.
Picking back up, we'll go to 6 p.m. our time from the 2300 Arena. Always one of the biggest shows of the weekend. The WrestleCon Mark Hitchcock Memorial Super Show. These shows are always, you get basically the biggest names in some absolutely crazy, unique matchups. No different this year. Your two top matches on the show, you got Rob Van Dam taking on Speedball Mike Bailey in a first-time ever matchup.
That name again.
And then one of the matches I'm the most looking forward to this weekend, Masato Tanaka, who former ECW stalwart, had all those crazy matches. He is taking on Josh Alexander, the Walking Weapon, Impact's obviously former champion.
Yep.
Josh Alexander, honestly, in my mind, one of the best wrestlers in the world today. And Masato Tanaka, still just as amazing as he was back in ECW 25 years later. I don't know how. This man is built differently, especially after all the vicious chair shots he used to take. You have...
When you say Masato Tanaka, the first thing that comes to my mind are the wars and the battles that he had with Mike Awesome in ECW. Man, those were battles. And you're right. He is different. He's cut from a different cloth, and he's still going at it like he was 20-some years ago. It's like he hasn't missed a beat.
Nick Nemeth taking on Joey Janela on this show. A CMLL versus Dragon Gate Atomicos match. You have Mystico, Averno, Barbaro Cavernario, Viano 3 Jr., and Star Jr. taking on Dragon Kid, Shun Skywalker, Koto Minoura, Ben-K, and Yamato. That is going to be an absolute banger there. Philadelphia Street Fight. Like I said, you get some unique matchups on this show. Sami Callihan taking on Paul Walter Hauser, who we just saw at the Wrestling Revolver in Des Moines, taking on Matt Cardona. Paul Walter Hauser, of course, primarily known as an actor, been in the Cobra Kai TV series, was in the Richard Jewell movie. Was done, I believe, he's a Golden Globe winner for that movie, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
And then in a just one of those matches you only get Mania Weekend. Los Boricuas, the original Los Boricuas, Savio Vega, Jose Estrada, Miguel Perez Jr., and Hurricane Castillo Jr. taking on the full-blooded Italians.
Yes!
Little Guido, Tommy Rich, Tony Mamaluke, and one member to be announced. So, obviously, shout out, big up to the legend Tracy Smothers. Obviously, I always got a kick out of the FBI gimmick. Can you believe Mike from Lopez tried to tell me that Tommy Rich is not actually full-blooded Italian? I can't believe it, man. I don't
believe it either. I met Tommy Rich last year up in Waterloo, and he seemed very Italian to me. Don't let the blonde hair throw you off.
I worked a show with him. I mean, he sounded like he was from Alabama. I believe there is an Alabama part of it, Italy. So, we were throwing out who the TBA might be. I said, what if it's full-blooded Italianhausen?
Oh.
That would be good. That would be full-blooded Italian house.
Sign me up. I'm sold right there.
I hope that's who it is.
Next big show, we're not even done with Thursday yet. DDT Pro Wrestling, DDT Goes Philadelphia, part of the collective. DDT, of course, a promotion from Japan, has a mix of great wrestling and a lot of oddball stuff. Seems like this year they are going to try to go with a little bit more in the wrestling side. They do have a Kazuki Hirata versus Yoka Shiko match. For those of you who don't know, Yoka Shiko is a blow-up doll that wrestles. And if you're interested,
it's entertaining. I seen my first matches last year at the collective with this, and I was entertained. I'll just put it that way. I was entertained. I went in not knowing what to expect watching a blow-up doll wrestle, but check out the match with the blow-up doll and Mike Speedball Mike Bailey. It was magnificent.
Speedball Mike Bailey on this show. He's going to be taking on Yuki Ueno. That should be a good match. Konosuke Takeshita on this show, because of course Konosuke Takeshita, big now on AEW, came from the DDT promotion. Taking on Shuma Ketsumi. I cannot pronounce this one. Shuma Ketsumiyata. Team CCK, Chris Brooks and Krid Lycos on this show. Taking on Shota, and Brian Keith is on this show. DDT Universal Champion Mao taking on Billy Starks. Okay. Tetsuya Endo versus Andrew the Giant Killer Everett. Andrew Everett, of course, guy who's been on Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor in the years past. Actually wrestles quite a bit for DDT. Nick Wayne is on this show. So mix of DDT regulars and some of the people who've traveled over and done some tours with DDT. So that should be an interesting show.
That's DDT Pro Wrestling. That's part of that's going to be on Fight, part of the collective. That is
DDT. On. Yep. Sorry.
I think we may have lost Nick.
I think
he was going to say it's on at 7.
Yeah, on
7 o'clock Central Time.
Same time, we have Action Wrestling. The Action Wrestling show I was talking about earlier, Dean. I'll just run this one down. The dog collar match. Mad Dog Connolly. If you've seen Mad Dog Connolly, had an amazing dog collar match with Manders at St. Louis Anarchy. That is available on their YouTube page if you want to go check that out. Taking on Dimas El Domino from Mexico. Kind of the Mexican, like the dog collar match is his forte. So that is a match of two guys that kind of the dog collar match is their thing. Arez, the King of Strange Style from Mexico, taking on Matt Mikowski. Daniel Makabe, the wrestling genius, taking on Timothy Thatcher in what should be a grappling super match. A Southern past and present match of Slim J versus Adam Priest. Slim J, former NWA Wildside. You've seen him on AEW a few times, but a stalwart of the Southern indie scene of like the 90s and the early 2000s, taking on Adam Priest, who is probably one of the best wrestlers in North America, probably one of the best unsigned guys, and a stalwart of the current Southern indie scene. Austin Luke and Marcus Mathers versus Sinner and Saint, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams. They are a team out of Canada that's going to be on this show. Tom Lawler, Filthy Tom Lawler, teaming up with our boy, the one called Manders. They are taking on the team of Jaden Newman and the Southern Psycho, Tank. Tank is an old buddy of mine, so that is something I am looking forward to. O'Shea Edwards is on this. O'Shea Edwards, Lawrence Roman, and Robert Disker versus the good hands of Shug D, Kevin Ryan, and Tyler Stevens. That is an action wrestling staple match. And then Alex Kane, the Action World Champion, taking on Colby Carino. If you want to see a show that is going to be top to bottom, just some great independent wrestling with a bunch of unique matchups, this is the show for you. If DDT isn't your thing, I would check out this show. I'm probably going to have the tablet up. I'm going to have the computer. I'm going to have the TV. I'm going to be running about 2 or 3 screens at a time and a couple times, and this is going to be one of those times. But that action show is definitely the show that I am really looking forward to. It's kind of one of the not Bloodsport, not Spring Break, not Supercard of Honor, like down ballot show. That is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most.
I mean, any show with Manders on it is the show that I want to watch for sure.
But
that's just because he's a good friend of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, then we'll try to keep it going here. Late night. We have obviously Mania Weekend. You get your late night shows. The first late night show Thursday night, Jersey Championship Wrestling, JCW and GCW versus the World. The Los Desperados team of Gringo Loco, Arez, and Latigo take on Team Dragon Gate of Yamato, Dragon Kid, and Shun Skywalker. Masha Slamovich takes on Suri. Alec Price, Cole Radrick, and the one called Manders versus Fuminori Abe, Rina Yamashito, and Takeo Nomore. Jordan Oliver taking on Angel Blanc. Los Macizos versus Ambos versus Boisterous Behavior. Boisterous Behavior, Man Like Doris, and Leon Slater, a team out of the UK, 2 guys I absolutely very much like. And then they're also in that match, Mao and Yokoshiko. So you've got a mix of some UK talent. You've got a mix of some DDT talent, some Joshi talent. That is going to be a really, really fun way to end the night on Thursday. If you can stay up that late, they'll end about 1 o'clock in the morning.
And Jordan Oliver, another guy that impressed me at the Jersey J Cup, former JCW champion in his own right. That's going to be a match to watch for sure. He is excellent.
Absolutely.
We've got a full bill for Wednesday, or starting Monday, Tuesday, Thursday really kicks up heavy. Friday, of course, SmackDown will be on the WWE side. But what is really sparking your interest Friday on the indie side here, Tim?
I mean, we started out right away. Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling was part of the collective. Again, 10 a.m. Maki Ito and Miyu Yamashita versus Reka Tasumi and Miyu Watanabe. Rio, RHIO, not Riho from AEW, but taking on Shoshu Nakajima. Max the Impaler's on the show. Hyper Masawa versus Billy Starks. And then a lot of other Tokyo Joshi Pro talent. I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of Joshi, but I do watch a little bit of it, and I'm always impressed by what I see. There is a Progress show that is on after that. I'm just gonna run through it. I don't watch a lot of Progress. Progress, of course, is a company out of the UK. I'm gonna be honest with you. Progress hasn't been great since the NXT UK raid, and then Speaking Out kind of happened that hurt them. But Kid Lycos, Man Like Doris is on that. Ricky Knight Jr., who we've seen on Ring of Honor and AEW recently, is going to be on that show. So there is some talent there. Wrestling Revolver and House of Glory Wrestling doing a show. Revolver put on their Twitter this was going to be on Triller Plus. It is not listed on the schedule yet. I am hoping the show is going to be on Triller Plus because the matches that are announced for this show so far, the main event, Mustafa Ali versus Amazing Red.
Yes.
Yes, please.
That is a banger. House of Glory Championship versus Revolver Championship. Mike Santana versus Alex Shelley.
Are both titles on the line in that match?
I'm not sure, to be honest. And then a Philadelphia street fight, Steve Macklin and Killer Kelly representing Red from Pro Wrestling Revolver. Macklin takes on House of Glory's Charles Mason. And then Zach Wentz and Trey Miguel, Sammy Callahan, and then the grizzled young vets of Zach Gibson and James Drake are on that show so far. I'm really hoping that show is going to be streamed.
Same here. You mentioned grizzled young veterans. I try to catch all their matches. Love that they've latched on, and now they're the Wrestling Revolver champions. They got a place to wrestle now. Glad that they're there, and glad they're featured here on Wrestlemania Weekend.
And then moving on a little bit, we'll go to 6 o'clock. Always one of the biggest shows of the weekend. Game Changer Wrestling presents Joey Janela's Spring Break 8. Guys, it's been 8 years of these now. I remember watching the original Joey Janela's Spring Break on Flow Slam. Does anybody remember Flow Slam? Myself and Kat Carter made Alex McCarthy stay awake till 2 a.m. and he had to go teach the next morning, and he stayed up and watched the whole show of the original Joey Janela's Spring Break. So that you have the first match they announced for this is an absolutely insane one. It is Masato Tanaka and Minoru Suzuki taking on Masha Slamovich and Rina Yamashita. This is I don't even want to know what's going to happen in this match, because you got Murder Grandpa, Masato Tanaka, Rina Yamashita, and Masha, two of the craziest people that are on the scene today. It's going to be absolutely insane. Joey Janela's Spring Break picking up a WrestleMania Weekend old school tradition. We have a Dragon Gate 6-man on this show. If you all remember the original Super Card of Honor,
yep.
I was there for the original Dragon Gate 6-man. We've got one here. It is Yamato, Dragon Kid, and KZY taking on Shun Skywalker, Ben K, and Kodo Minoura. That is going to be an absolute banger. Then another match that, again, you're only going to get this one on Mania Weekend, guys. We got Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver of the East West Express teaming up with Speedball Mike Bailey to take on the team of Kerry Morton and the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. Kerry Morton. We got two generations. The Rock and Roll Express are in action. Gringo Loco is supposed to be taking on Volador Jr. Volador Jr. apparently having some visa issues. Not sure if he will be on that show or not at this point. Blake Christian taking on Joey Janela for the Game Changer World Championship in a match that will probably go entirely way too long.
Isn't that the Joey Janela MO?
And Blake Christian goes long too. I'm going to be honest with you. I am not really looking. This match might not be something I'm going to be looking forward to. Interesting note: Joey Janela being accompanied to rings has had Missy Hyatt in his corner as of late. So,
okay.
Missy Hyatt will be in Joey's corner. We have another match: Matt Cardona taking on Blue Cane.
Yeah.
Talk about Blue Cane a bit. He's been making some headway and getting his name out there quite a bit recently too.
Blue Cane is a guy from the UK who has been doing exactly what it sounds like. It is Kane in a blue costume. It's literally Blue Cane. And it went viral about 6 or 7 months ago, and then I don't know, because I had heard at one point he got a cease and desist, but apparently he's going to be on spring break. So that's going to be insane. This one's going to be insane, folks. There will be blood in this next match. It is an I Quit match of Effie versus Mance Warner. This is like the biggest. They always have at least like one big feud match on every spring break. This is the big game changer feud right now. Mance Warner, Effie, Manders, Matthew Justice were the second gear crew. Mance turned on his back on the second gear crew, turned on Effie, bloodied him up, bloodied up Manders, bloodied up Alley Catch, actually attacked Alley Catch's mother at one point. Then we saw it carried over into Revolver. We can't trust Manders anywhere. We can't trust Mance anywhere anymore. You know, Mance was one of my boys, but I don't know what's going on with him. But Effie and Mance in a I Quit match, that is going to be absolutely insane. There will be a lot of blood. There's probably going to be a lot of crazy stuff. That's going to be absolutely a banger. And then Maki Death Kill, Maki Ito, and Nick Gage. If you've never seen this before, it is literally Nick Gage and Maki Ito teaming together. Maki Ito using a pizza cutter with a bow with a hair bow on it. It is very fun. Taking on the team of Ram Kaicho and Danhausen. What's going to happen? I don't know. It's probably going to be crazy. It's going to be fun. It's spring break, man. We got to do what we got to do on that one.
There's no way that's not going to be crazy.
Show on the Title Match Network, I'm just going to mention real quick. We're not going to go too deep into it. Obviously, we're in Philadelphia. Battleground Championship Wrestling, a company that at one point was funded by Rob Feinstein. According to the promotion, he is no longer with them. They are doing a tribute to the Extreme 2. This is from the 2300 Arena, the old ECW arena, and it is exactly what you would expect. It is an ECW reunion card. Tajiri versus Super Crazy, Two Cold Scorpio, Juventud Guerrera, Al Snow versus Shane Douglas with Francine, Team 3D, Bully and Devon versus Onita and to be announced, the Baldies, HC Loke, Tony DeVito and Angel versus the Pitbull Revolution, Gary Wolf and a team of guys who he has trained, mystery special guest referee Bill Alfonso versus Joel Gertner, Rhino versus
I love Joel Gertner.
Rhino versus Masato Tanaka, Little Guido and Tommy Rich versus the Samoan Gangster Party of Samu and Lance in Hawaii, Danny Doring versus Crowbar, Jason versus Alvin with Missy Hyatt, Blue Meaning on the show. If like I said, if ECW was your thing, that might be something you want to check out. But that's at all time when there is a lot going on because you have spring break. You're going to have SmackDown gone. And we're going to get to the next show. It is Ring of Honor, Super Card of Honor. This is going to be your best wrestling show of the weekend. We all know this. So far, we have Eddie Kingston versus Mark Briscoe, Athena versus Hikaru Shida. For the women's title, Billy Starks versus Queen Aminata to crown the first world television champion. There is a Stardom 6-person match on there. I know Mina Shirakawa is in it. A couple of things. Kyle Fletcher versus Lee Johnson for the ROH television title. There's going to be a lot of stuff announced probably this week because with Ring of Honor, they kind of announce a lot of stuff on the go home. But the Guns are supposed to be on it. Obviously, the Kingdom and the ROH Tag Champs, they'll be on the show. I expect this to be great. Every Super Card of Honor under the Tony Khan banner has been great, even if we don't even know the full card yet.
And that is, of course, exclusive to Honor Club, correct?
Yes, $10 for Honor Club. You don't have to pay $50 to Bleacher Report or anything like that. $10 for Honor Club. Sign up now. You can watch the last few weeks of TV to kind of get up on the storylines. You can watch the ROH Women's TV title tournament they've had, which had some really good stuff on it. But yeah, $10 for that on Honor Club. I'm kind of going to see where we're going next. Okay, then we got one more for Friday. Game Changer Wrestling for the Culture. This is always a super fun show. I was actually at the first For the Culture show at the Indianapolis Collective during COVID in 2020. These are always fun. You've got Billy Dixon versus Darius Carter, Man Like Darius versus Sonny Kiss. That should be a fantastic match. Pan-African World Title match. The champion Shug D defending against Alex Kane. A tag scramble, the Kings of the District versus the main event versus Killionaires Club versus a team I love of Thick and Juicy, Brooke Valentine and Faye Jackson. Brooke Valentine, actually a former IPW from Des Moines, Iowa. talent that moved out east. A women's scramble match. Jocelyn Navarro, who is a young lady I'm very high on, is in that with Janai Kai and a few other names. Team Dala. Unfortunately, Flop Dala will be a part of this show.
Say it ain't so.
Yeah, but I do like some of the guys on his team. He has Isaiah Broner, Keita Murray, Mr. Danger, and Teriyaki. They are taking on Team Myron of Myron Reed, Calvin Tankman, Darius Bennington, Devin Monroe, and the Indy legend, the Indy Hall of Famer himself, Ruckus, is going to be in that team.
Been a while since I've heard that name.
And then there is one more match that we got to highlight on For the Culture. It is the legend, the man, Too Cold Scorpio.
Right here on the wall. Right there on the wall.
Too Cold Scorpio. Still going, still banging, still great. And he is taking on my boy, our boy, the front man, Jossie.
That's right.
Taking on Too Cold Scorpio. I cannot wait. I'm so happy for my boy frontman Ja. I know he's going to go out there and kill it. Too Cold is one of my favorites. He's an absolute legend. I cannot wait. For the Culture, always a great show. Like I said, late night show. We're going to be up late. I don't get a lot of sleep Mania week, guys. It's what it is. Saturday, we're getting close, guys. Kicking it off, another one of my favorite shows of the weekend always. Effie's Big Gay Brunch 9. I've been doing several of these shows. They are an absolute fun time. They're a blast. Wrestling sometimes, but you get into this, and it's just a celebration. It is beautiful. And the card for this one actually looks pretty cool. We've got Rina Yamashita defending the GCW Ultra Violent Championship against Billy Dixon. Dark Sheik versus Sonny Kiss. That is an absolute banger right there. I cannot wait for that one. It was supposed to be Sawyer Wreck versus Max the Impaler. That would have been a banger. Unfortunately, Sawyer broke her hand. Bree Zongo is on this show, taking on Bussy, the team of Effie and Alley Catch. Team Pero versus Team Pollo Del Mar. Few names in there. Ziggy Heim, who just announced she is retiring very soon. Karam, who is a guy who's been on AAW in Chicago. Ron Bass Jr., a guy I know real well. Keita Murray is on that one. Enos Surreal and Jamie Senegal versus the Runway of Calvin Culture and Tyler Klein. The Runway, a great tag team. Enos Surreal and Jamie, I love both of them. And then Monomyth versus Aaron Wark versus Rico Gonzalez versus Devin Monroe. Obviously, it's Effie's Big Gay Brunch. It's a celebration of all the amazing LGBTQ talent that we have in independent wrestling. And like I said, I've had the pleasure to be at several of these live. They are an absolute blast of a show. They're a party. They're a celebration. It is going to be a fun time there.
Saturday, obviously, less independent shows with WrestleMania Night 1 taking place. I always love the fact that after WrestleMania, there's a late night show on Fight because you can't just get enough wrestling. You just sat through 4 or 5 hours of WrestleMania, and that's Joey Janela's Spring Break Cluster F Forever. What is on this show that catches your eye, Tim?
There literally is only 2 things announced for this show.
I know. That's the bad thing about it.
That's the crazy thing.
Right.
It is. The first thing is Violence is Forever. Kevin Q and Dominic Guarini. I love those guys. They are defending the GCW tag titles against Jacob Fatu and Zilla Fatu, the Bollywood Boys, and Los Macizos in, get this, guys, it's not just a match. It's not just a cage match. It's not a Hell in a Cell match. It is the Punjabi prison match.
Yes!
I don't know how it's happening. I don't know what's going on. But Joey Janela announced that on Spring Break Clusterfuck Forever, we're going to get a Punjabi prison match.
Because WrestleMania Night 1 wasn't enough, dude. I cannot wait for this Punjabi prison match. I am going to stay up and watch. I cannot wait.
The only other thing announced for this is the 88-man cluster fuck match. Can we say that on there?
I don't.
You're describing this. You're saying the name of the show, so yes, you can.
So the cluster F match is a match. you are eliminated by pinfall, submission, or death.
Or death.
And they've announced that there's going to be 88. They say men, it says men on the sheet. I'm assuming it's going to be 88 people because we'll probably have some women, not non-binary town. Yeah, it's going to be 88 people in this match. The American Giant, Bucks Bresner, and Dink are the only two that are officially announced. So the American Giant and Dink are going to be the only two we know. And there's going to be 86 other people in this thing. If you just want to have some wacky fun after WrestleMania Night 1, if you're drinking or doing whatever with your friends, this is always a fun time. It's going to be absolutely insane. I want to back up one show we missed real quick. I want to spend a lot of time. On IWTV, 3 p.m. our time on Saturday, there is ETU, Expect the Unexpected, a great promotion from the East Coast. They are doing ETU versus Dragon Gate. Marcus Mathers, who we talk about a lot on the show, taking on Dragon Kid on that show. Danny Demento versus Ultimo Dragon. Miracle Generation of Dustin Waller and Kylan King, a tag team I absolutely love, taking on Gold Class of Ben K and Kota Minoura. Alec Price, who you mentioned, CZ, taking on Shun Skywalker, one of my favorite guys from Dragon Gate. Mike Santana versus Yamato. Brandon Kirk versus KZY. Just want to shout that one out. If you're sitting around on Saturday and you want to throw on something before WrestleMania to put on the background or just to watch, that ETU versus Dragon Gate show on IWTV is going to be an absolute banger. Sunday, there is one show I want to highlight real quick. Combat Zone Wrestling. They're still around. They are going to be running a show in Philadelphia. The one thing that's cool about it, they are running the show at the Murphy Rec Center. The Murphy Rec Center hasn't seen wrestling in a long time, but it is the building. It is the birthplace of Ring of Honor. It is where the very first Ring of Honor shows were held at the Murphy Rec. They're going to be there. Rick Swan is on the show. Mostly the CZW regulars. It looks like Griffin McCoy is on that show, so there is some talent there. But their big draw there, they're going to be running at the Murphy Rec. And that's about it. We got through about 24 shows in just over an hour. So
crazy.
And we had the man to do it. Tim Regal, thank you so much for giving us your indie knowledge. Of course, we're going to see you later this week, of course, on our Wednesday show, correct? CZ, you got more on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've got at least 3 more shows coming in the next week-ish. We've got our Wednesday panel show, an all-star panel show. Of course, Nick and myself will be there. That's Wednesday at 7. We have the, for frequency's sake, brethren, Joe the Show Winkle and Rod Villagomez joining us. And we have from MLW Confusion, Rob Kammerer, and of course our good friend Mr. Timothy Regal coming on to talk all things WrestleMania. We're going to preview the whole weekend as much as possible. Maybe not every single match, but we'll talk about what we think is going to happen, where we see the WWE going after this weekend. Saturday, we have one show for sure. We are going to go live and have an instant reaction to WrestleMania Night 1. Stay tuned about Stand and Deliver. We're still working the kinks out on that one. But then Tuesday of next week, obviously we will not be airing at our normal time Sunday because kind of something important going on there, right, Nick?
Yeah, we have to watch the show to review it, fellas. So we'll be coming to you on Tuesday, giving you everything WrestleMania Night 2, and of course everything the Raw after WrestleMania. And we'll be joined by a special guest from Absolute Pro Wrestling, Brandon the Shank Eubanks. He'll be helping us break it down, WrestleMania Night 2 and the Raw after WrestleMania.
So much to talk about. It's going to be a great week. Always love WrestleMania week, the build-up, not just WrestleMania, but obviously if you've been paying attention to this show at all, which I know some of you have, there's a lot to see on the independent scene. We've got some great shows coming up for the month of April, but stay tuned for those announcements later on. That's going to wrap things up for tonight, fellas. Tim, as always, Mr. Regal, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Love having you on. Love hearing your expertise on especially the independent wrestling front. And looking forward to seeing you Wednesday. Go ahead.
Support the indies, support the talent, and gotta get a plug in. Don't forget Wrestlemania this weekend coming up. The SCW Pro version of it, which I'm sure you guys will get into many more times as we get closer.
Yes, sir.
April 27th at the Bluegrass Community Center. SCW Pro Epic, one of the biggest shows we've ever done. Don't forget about that. But obviously, this week it's going to be a great week. But yeah, support indies. Like I said, it doesn't cost a fraction of what it used to. Triller TV, IWTV, Honor Club, support your independent wrestling. There's a ton of it. Like I said, always support the indies. Thank you guys. It's been an absolute blast being on the show.
And if you follow our show, let your friends know. Post on Twitter or X, Facebook, Instagram. Hashtag support indie wrestling. Hashtag support indie wrestlers. Hashtag all wrestling matters. Hashtag CSTC podcast. Got to throw that out there. You can find us at our socials. We are Cards Subject to Change, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. For my tag team partner, Never Wrong Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ. We'll see you sooner than next week. We'll see you on Wednesday discussing all things WrestleMania.